Kia ora, you've tuned into the New Zealand Small Business and Entrepreneur Festival podcast. Today is a really good one when we have got Miriam Hewson from Futureproof Concepts Limited, and we're going to focus this one completely on the COVID-19 support payment, which is now available to grab. I don't know too much about it, but Miriam is an expert, so I'm going to bring her into the stream. I've got a bunch of questions that I'm going to ask that hopefully will help you all out. Kia ora, how are you?
Kia ora. I'm good, Craig. How are you?
I'm very well. So we're going to jump straight into the COVID-19 support payment. And the very first question is, what is it?
Okay, cool. Hey, so today is a really important day for all your small business owners out there that have been just holding on to anything that was possible because the government has come to the party and has, like you said, brought on the COVID-19 support payment. So it is similar to the resurgence support payment that was available previously. It's a fortnightly payment, and at the moment they have agreed to 3 rounds. It's become available from this morning, 8 o'clock, and you can apply for it through your MyIR login with IRD, and we'll get to this in a moment. But essentially what you can get is $4,000 per business plus $400 per full-time equivalent employee. And I'm just going to carry on telling you all the criteria, if that's cool, Craig. What you have to show is a revenue drop of 40%. So revenue is income only of 40%. And the dates that they have set for that is the revenue drop has to be from a period of 7 days from the 16th of February. So the first week you would be looking at whether it is through Xero or your bank statements if you don't have Xero or an accounting system, from the 16th of February to the 22nd of February. So check your income in that 7-day period, and you basically have a little bit of a flexibility here because it's already the 28th of February. So you have a few 7-day periods there that you can shift along. You have to compare this with a similar 7-day period in the 6 weeks prior to shifting to the stage 2 of the traffic light system. And that is basically from the 5th of January to the 15th of February. So you've got 6 weeks there where you have to choose a 7-day period. And usually what I say to people, find the week where you had most of your money coming in and then look at a 7-day period after the 15th. So from the 16th of February, just make sure it's a similar week. So for instance, I had builders, they got in 1 week $400,000 coming in because they just completed a job. However, that wasn't a typical week. So you just want to make sure you're looking at a typical week. Yeah.
One question, for example, all my friends out there who've got event companies like myself, we haven't done any events, done nothing between October and still done nothing. So our income in January was zilch, very low, and our income now is pretty much the same. So what's the scenario for that one?
So obviously you can't drop any lower if there was no income there, right? So what IRD or the government are saying is that you have to base it on actual figures. Obviously, in those circumstances, the event industry has another event support package available to choose from, and IRD and the government have made some announcement around that. However, that's only from 5,000 people plus, right? So for quite a few of us, that's not applicable. So what you can do is actually look at applying for the COVID support payment based on a seasonal criteria. The downside is the government hasn't actually set the scope around that yet. So they're still negotiating and working on this. However, what I would suggest to you guys is that you send a direct message to IRD or give them a call and say, hey, this is how it works. I will need some financial support. And then they can make a decision on a case-by-case basis. It's not a straightforward strategy, but there's something available there.
Okay, cool. So we'll put events to the side like everyone does.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about businesses who actually have got some data that they can actually pull so that they can actually say that in the 7-day period, I would have normally got blah, blah, blah amount. This year, this time, because we moved into red, I have made 50, 60, 70% less due to the new framework. So what are the, you talked about the dates. So how do we get this data?
Okay.
Where do we pull it from?
Cool. So if you use Xero or any other accounting software, the application is similar. So what I would like you to do is just have a quick look at what I'm about to show you, Craig. If you could pull up the Xero screen, then can you see this? I hope that's all moving here for you.
It's moving.
Awesome. So I'm in a demo company here in Xero, but it's essentially the same for if you're using Xero as your accounting software or MYB. You go into your reports. And what you want to find is the profit and loss statement. Now, also important is that we actually want to look at cash. We don't want to look at the invoices that you send out because it's no good if you haven't been paid for it. So what you're going to find is the profit and loss statement. And you want to bring up a period that shows a 7-day data. So in this case, we set that the 16th of February is the start of the period that they want you to measure. So I'm just going to find that 7-day period from the 16th of February to the 22nd of February as my starting point. And then I want to compare this to 6 periods. So you want to compare it to, so you just go to the compare the periods and then type in what you want because they said 6 weeks. Then in Xero, I'm actually going to the cash version. So I go to more on the top right-hand side. I select cash because you really want to show that it was pretty darn hard the last few weeks. And so then you click update, and what Xero will show you is actually in that first column here, that's your period that you need to drop your revenue by, or it has to have dropped by 40%. So in this particular company, you also only want to look at your trading income because that's all they're worried about is your revenue. So this particular company had 0 sales. And here are some options from they can choose from. So for example, the 7-day period of the 26th of January to the 1st of February, they earned $1,700. So your drop was 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you are in the situation where actually you had more money coming in that week than in prior to the 15th of February, you just start playing with those figures. So instead of the 16th of Feb, you choose the 17th. And so you go forward day by day and update it and just have a look. Obviously in my demo company, there's no additional revenue, but you can basically look for it up until today. Essentially, just make sure your Xero is reconciled because otherwise none of these figures will have been, none of these figures will show in your report.
My question for this one is that in that one period, it shows here that we've made 0 income or revenue.
Yeah.
In a period that's comparing another period is that you at a similar time you made $1,700. So would that mean that based on the new support payment, you'd get $1,700?
No. So that just means, so this just supports the 40% drop in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What you will receive $4,000 plus $400 per full-time equivalent employee, regardless.
Okay.
So they basically don't give you a payment of whatever you haven't received in that period. They give you the payment of $4,000 flat. Based on you having dropped in revenue by 40% or more. So this is just a test to show that, hey, in a similar period, I got some income. Now I have nothing. Then, yeah, that's definitely showing that you have had issues with your income.
Okay, cool. So if the people out there who've got Xero, you went into accounting, you went into reports, and then you created
then you went to the profit and loss. So that's the one you want to look up. Yep, profit and loss report. And then you went and select your dates. So you go, you want to select a date that's after the 15th of February for 7 days. And then you compare it with 6 periods, which is 6 weeks.
Cool. Excellent. And then then once you get that information there,
you need to write that down.
Oh, you need to write it down.
So once you get that info, you need to write it down, the date period, So in this case, you know, if it was the 17th to the 23rd of Feb, you say income was 0, because you need those figures when you then go to MyIR and apply for it. And then you also use a comparison period and write that down. Cool.
Okay, so that seems pretty simple to be able to do that in the Xero software, which is Xero is awesome.
Yeah.
And my assumption is that MYOB and any other type of platform that's similar to this would be able to do it as easily as that.
Correct. Yeah, they all have a profit and loss. Yeah.
Yeah. So what if someone doesn't have Xero or any sort of this stuff?
Cool. I might just come back to you. Cool. So if someone doesn't have Xero or anything like that, you basically go over your bank statement. So go into your online banking, same thing, have a look, because you can select the dates of your account transactions. Have a look at those. It's just a bit more manual labor, but see what your income was only. So don't worry about your expenses. Just look at your income, because that's all they're worried about is your revenue. And you go through the same process. So you would look up the periods before the 15th of February from the 5th of January. So you only have those 6 weeks there. And just write them all down. Just go week by week, write it all down, and then go, okay, what have I done, or what has happened after the 16th or 15th of February from the 16th. And that will give you those figures.
So if I'm a really small business and normally I only make $200 or $300 a week, and then I can show that I've lost, I'm down to, let's say $300. I'm just to do some maths, and I'm down to $100.
Yeah.
The government will pay me $4,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, definitely plus 400 per full-time equivalent employee. What's important, and that's part of the criteria too, is that you actually have a plan. That you have a plan to make sure that after you have received the funding, that you can actually survive going forward. It's also important that you use that money when you receive it for operating expenses, capital expenditure only. That you don't use, you can use it for wages, but that you don't use it to pass on to shareholders and so forth. So it's really to keep your business operational, to pass it on to your landlord, to pay your bills and so forth. So that's really one of the criteria that they're really pushing. And I guess that comes then to the question of, what if I received it but I wasn't meant to? And I have received, or I have witnessed this situation before, where we had a new restaurant that was with a resurgent support payment. Because they say that if you're pre-revenue firm, that you can apply for it, but you have to show certain, criteria, what you would have expected and so forth. But sorry, that was for the wage subsidy. For the resurgent support payment, it was you have to have at least 1 month of operation under your belt, and you have to show that you underwent some things to get loans from other providers like the bank. So if they have declined you, then that's definitely one of the criteria is met. However, in that case, my client was applying for the IRD small business cashflow loan, and that didn't count for having sought alternative funding. And so what they have asked them to do is repay that. If that happens to you, IRD is okay for you to repay that in installments if you have used the money already. They have come to that attention simply because that client applied for multiple other resurgent support payments down the track. And so, therefore, just arrange a repayment arrangement with IRD. They're really lenient. Let them know that you're really stuck with COVID, that you had revenue loss, that you were impacted. The government has given them some leniency around that. So they're really good to talk to. Just make sure you do communicate with them.
Cool. And the best way to contact IRD or in the revenue department is via the website or by the 0800 number. What would you suggest?
I would recommend that you send them a direct message. So when you log into MyIR, where you have access to all of your accounts, if you don't have a MyIR, it's really easy to apply for it. So you go to IRD's website, you click on login. And if you haven't got a login, there is a little button that says register with MyIR, and then you follow the prompts. But if you have a MyIR, you have the option to go and click I want more, or I want, and then under there is you have send a message, apply for the COVID support payment, let them know that you were impacted by COVID. So you have a whole range of options to choose from. And so that is when you log into MyIR and you click on the I want tab. That's where you find all of that.
Awesome. So
cool.
Jump to the IR, and then it's pretty intuitive in the way that you'll be able to find it. If you can't find it, Google how to find it. You'll probably be able to find it.
So if you can't find it, what I would say to you is go to www.ird.govt.nz/CPS. So that's the COVID support payment. No, CSP. Sorry, other way around. And that will take you to the site, or you can just type it into their search, COVID support payment. That will take you to the site that shows you all the criteria, what you will need to apply, and down the bottom it also has actually a calculator. So if you go to your bank and you don't know how to calculate the percentage drop, they can do it for you. And then down the bottom it says apply here. So that will also take you to that, but you have to be logged in. Your accountant can also apply for you on your behalf. So if you really get stuck, give them a call and they will help you. I've done it this morning for a few clients of mine. Really easy, because I know what I'm looking at, and they just say, can you just do it? Saves you some struggle. But yeah, it's fairly easy to find. The only thing is, once you're actually in the application, you will have to tick a few things, and then you get to the point. So you have to basically say or declare that you are have been in business for at least a month, and that you had a revenue drop of 40%. So obviously make sure you have all the data done and calculate beforehand. And then you have to just declare that you understand the terms and conditions, And then it gets to the point where you have to put in the dates and the amounts for both of those periods. So one prior to the 15th of Feb and one after the 15th of Feb. And then underneath it calculates the revenue drop. And then you continue on with that application. And you have to know how many full-time and part-time employees you have. And so that's where you put all of that in and declare that you have understood and it's all correct and So you just follow the prompts and click next. And then, yeah, it's basically they say the first payments will come through tomorrow.
Wow, they're pretty efficient with the way that they pay. So if I'm a sole trader and I'm going through that and I've applied for it, I've got evidence that I've dropped below 40%, and I'm the only employee. So am I one FTE?
Yes, you are. So yeah, obviously, good question. It is for sole traders, self-employed people, and people that pay themselves a wage and get paid a wage from the employer. So yeah. So just important to know is that if you have two jobs, so if you're self-employed but you're also working for someone else, ID may ask you, hey, what's this all about? That's the employer has already applied for you. You just have to make sure that you let them know that you also have a self-employed business that is actually viable and that you're working on. Yeah.
What is the definition of a FTE, or full-time equivalent?
Full-time equivalent employee. So that means anybody that works 30 hours or over.
Well, this has been very, very helpful. If anyone out there gets stuck, how can they reach you so you can do it?
Sure. So obviously I can't apply for people that, So if there are people that want me to apply for them, they have to be a client of mine so I can actually access their IRD data. But if you just have some questions, just send me an email to Miriam at futureproofconcepts.nz, or find me on my website, futureproofconcepts.nz, and all my details are on there. So yeah, you can reach out that way.
Awesome. Miriam, you're very generous with your time. Hopefully I don't get flooded with emails, but I know you're definitely there to help anyway. So we'll make sure that we put the show, all the links to your website, and maybe not your email below. Yeah, and thank you again. So the COVID-19 support payment is available now.
Yep.
Rewind, listen to this one a couple of times because it is some really good information to learn how you can access this easily.
Awesome. I want to say one more thing, Craig, if that's cool. If you have applied for the small business cash flow loan before, you're also eligible for another $10,000 top up, regardless whether or not you have repaid the first lot. You essentially will then have 2 loans with IRD, 2 years interest free, 5 years to repay it. If you don't repay it within 2 years, it's only a 3% interest rate. If you have repaid it within the first 2 years, so the first lot that you've applied for, you can apply for the whole lot, so $20,000, and then you also get another top up per full-time equivalent employee. I haven't actually seen when that becomes available, but it is definitely in the pipeline, and Grant Robertson initially has said in the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, watch the space.